Good day. Today is Sunday, April 5th, 2026. For decades, we were sold a dream, a digital, high-tech, multi-billion-dollar dream of an impenetrable shield. We were told that between the Patriot, the THAAD, and the Arrow systems, the skies over our allies were safe. But today, the landscape of the Middle East conflict has fundamentally shifted. A report first surfaced by the Israeli newspaper Haaretz has revealed a staggering, systemic failure in regional missile defense. It's no longer a secret, though Washington is trying to keep the lid on it. 80% of Iranian missiles launched against Israel are now successfully penetrating air defenses and striking their targets. Think about that number, 80%. For years, the West built its entire strategic posture on the supposed invincibility of these systems. We saw this narrative reinforced throughout the conflict in Ukraine, yet the reality on the ground in Israel and across the Middle East tells a different story. This is not just a failure of technology. It is a result of systematic exhaustion. Mass bombardments from Hezbollah in Lebanon have pushed these systems to their breaking point, while the destruction of forward U.S. radar systems in Qatar and the UAE has blinded the interceptors. The impenetrable shield has been proven to be a myth. As this conflict intensifies, we have to look at the legal framework, because it explains why the entire Persian Gulf is now a fireball. Iran has begun targeting military and economic assets within Gulf states that host American bases. Now, some in the West call this unprovoked escalation, but under international law, specifically United Nations General Assembly Resolution 3314, adopted in 1974, the definition of an act of aggression is very clear. It includes the action of a state in allowing its territory, which it has placed at the disposal of another state, to be used by that other state for perpetrating an act of aggression against a third state. In this context, countries like Qatar, Kuwait, and the UAE, which allow their bases, airspace, and intelligence assets to be used for U.S. and Israeli strikes, are considered complicit. Because these nations facilitate the refueling of jets and the launching of missiles from their soil, they effectively lose their status as neutral parties. Iran argues, and the law supports them, that they have the right to respond directly within those territories. This is why we are seeing strikes on desalination plants in Kuwait and energy installations in neighboring states. They have become platforms for war, and now they are paying the price for that hospitality. We have transitioned into an all-out geoeconomic struggle. Israel has targeted Iranian industrial centers, specifically steelmaking facilities, in a deliberate attempt to deindustrialize the nation. But the retaliation has been immediate. Professor Mohammad Marandi has noted that Iran will not accept a ceasefire that merely allows its adversaries to rearm. The goal is now to change the facts on the ground permanently. If the U.S. continues to target Iranian economic assets, Iran will continue to dismantle the energy infrastructure of the entire region. We are no longer talking about a simple recession. We are looking at a global depression. Oil and LNG supply chains are under threat. Force majeure has been declared in Qatar. Experts estimate that this infrastructure, the cooling plants, the refineries, will take at least 3 to 5 years to rebuild. The global economy is standing on the edge of an abyss, and the people at the top are still acting like it's a game of checkers. Speaking of the people at the top, we have to address the sheer embarrassment of the leadership in Washington. We have a president who treats a high-stakes regional war like a reality TV branding exercise. Donald Trump is on Truth Social, oscillating between bellicose threats and meandering interviews. Just yesterday, April 4th, he told the world that capturing strategic Iranian points like Karg Island would be very easy. He says Iran has no radar and no anti-aircraft. He says our planes are just floating over the top of them. This isn't just idiotic, it's dangerous. It ignores every warning from the Joint Chiefs and the CIA. And then we have his Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. Hegseth is out there giving briefings as if he's a color commentator for a football game. He says Iran is a team that only scripted 20 plays and that we have total air dominance. Total air dominance? Really, Pete? Let's talk about what actually happened over the last 48 hours. We didn't just float over them. We lost a high-end F-15E Strike Eagle over central Iran. We had an A-10 Warthog riddled with holes, forced to ditch. We had 2 Black Hawk helicopters damaged by ground fire while trying to rescue our pilots. This is the reality. The U.S. has not engaged in ground operations without overwhelming air superiority since 1943. And in this theater, that superiority is non-existent. If the politicians are delusional, the talking heads on TV are worse. We are subjected to a daily procession of retired generals who haven't won a war in 80 years. From Vietnam to Afghanistan to Iraq, their record is one of strategic failure disguised by tactical bravado. They keep chanting the mantra of superior American technology. It's as if they've been locked in an asylum since 1991. They are oblivious to the fact that the technological gap has shifted. The U.S. does not have a functional, deployed hypersonic arsenal that can match what Iran and its allies are firing. These weapons move at speeds and trajectories that render our current interceptors, the ones the generals brag about, mathematically obsolete. This is why 80% are getting through. The ignorant-in-chief and his Secretary of War are bringing a 20th century knife to a 21st century gunfight. They are deploying 50,000 American servicemen and women into a potential meat grinder, while bragging about how easy it will be. Before I close, I cannot in good conscience ignore a final uncomfortable truth. If we say the U.S. military hasn't won a war since 1945, it is not because our soldiers lack bravery. The American service member is as courageous as any in history. The failure lies with a leadership that has transformed the armed forces into a global mercenary force. Our military is no longer used to defend the American people or the American homeland. It is used as an enforcement arm for corporate interests, oil pipelines, and geopolitical gambles for the money masters. The last time this country was under a real conventional threat was the War of 1812. Since then, we've been sent thousands of miles away to places like Vietnam, Iraq, and now the Persian Gulf. When you take a brave force and use it as a tool for profit rather than a shield for its people, you don't get victory. You get the hollow, dangerous stalemate we see today. As the April 6th deadline approaches, we are watching a leadership of pure delusion drag us toward a precipice. The easy victory promised on social media will likely go down in history as the catalyst for the final shattering of American influence in the East. Please subscribe, like, and share. Your comments are always welcome. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.